It's a beautiful day. Welcome to Nimrod World News. I am Bimpe Esan Adedeji. Let's go through the headlines of the stories first. Palestinians 90 in number killed during Israeli strike. Victims in school and mosque shelter, as the officials of Gaza stated. More trouble could lie ahead as far-right lingers. Britain hopes its riots have gotten to the peak. Embarrassment for Putin from Ukraine, surprise assault over southern Russia, the least of it all. The reason for NAV's deployment of aircraft to protest ground in Gobe. Now the news in full. Palestinians 90 in number killed during Israeli strike. Victims in schools and mosque shelter, as the officials of Gaza stated. Not less than 90 Palestinians died during Israeli strike targeted at the home of the displaced in a school and mosque, as stated by the officials of Gaza. According to the civil defense officials in Gaza, at-Tabihin prayers were on as the people praying gathered in the eastern part of Gaza City around Haidaraj vicinity when the attack was launched on Friday night into Saturday. Israel did not deny pioneering the strike but said it was done to stop the operation of Hamas going on in the place. The spokesperson of Gaza Civil Defense, Mahmoud Bassar, relayed to the news agency that gathered the news. 90 people had gone with the occurrence. Large number of these died, had their bodies torn apart, while it is difficult to identify many of them. The attack came without prior warning, as mentioned by those who witnessed it. The assembly of those affected were civilians, innocent children, elders, men and women who never expected the strike, as Faiz Afana, the director of ambulance and emergency in northern Gaza, said. One of the relatives of the lost souls could not hold back his overwhelming emotions on losing his daughter, his son-in-law and grandchildren by the unfortunate incident. He lamented the people were just at the location of this disaster to pray. Meanwhile, in the effort of the news agency to confirm with Israel Defense Forces IDF said the compound it struck was a mass command and control center which was in a building. IDF said tangible research was done to avoid affecting civilians in any way. Area surveillance and intelligence information were precise steps taken before the strike. The military was asked by the news agency to support this claim. It provided information about the operation of the Hamas having a compound targeted as its center for command and control. It said, according to its intelligence, almost 20 Hamas and jihad fighters was in operation right in that building. IDF, however, disagreed with the number of the dead as released by the authorities of Gaza, but the news agency could not verify the figures on its own. This is the fifth strike on a school by Israeli military, according to the former news agency's report. More trouble could lie ahead as far-right lingers. Britain hopes its riots have gotten to the peak. There was tension all over the streets of Britain on Wednesday for a few hours as shops and businesses in certain cities and towns closed down early for the day. Police took to the major streets and roads used by people where they reside as they were ready to face any occurrence prepared to be another night of tension, being sponsored by far-right. According to the news agency's observation on Telegram channels, the list of the addresses of those marked by the far-right protests, which also circulated through social media platforms for a couple of days, gave a loud notice that the racist intended attacks on asylum seekers and Muslims will reappear. The counter-protests were initiated. Rallies against racism took over the protests and they were able to keep the far-right antagonists away. A peaceful breeze came over the country and people experienced a relief. Wednesday seemed to be like a change of tide as the sudden crisis was put to an end. though they expected far-right violence, but according to Ahmed Hussein, aged 31, an up-to-tax protest was able to subside the tension. There is always a great result when a large number of people move in support of a good notion, as stated by response taken at the grassroots. Nevertheless, the government establishes it's still at great alert to receive more trouble during weekend. Embarrassment for Putin from Ukraine. Surprise assault over southern Russia. The least of it all. The kind of an unfriendly look and the want to try out the patience of another given to the commander-in-chief of Russia's military, General Valery Gerasimov, by Vladimir Putin was to reveal the president of Russia was not in the right mood, due to the news coming out of the southern region of Kursk. The happening, as at that time, recalls the armies of Ukraine with their tanks guarded by air defenses were on their way to that part of Russia. The soldiers of Russia were already giving in, and the people in the country of Russia and those around it were living with few luggages in order to find safety. The warfare that has lasted for 2.5 years has attracted an aggressive move of Ukraine into Russia, according to Putin at the Kremlin meeting. Kiev is using this to stir up anger. A state of emergency has been declared by the acting governor of the region, as the situation is described to be a complicated one. Nevertheless, it's degrading for a state in Russia to experience such instead of being there to protect its citizens. The attack on Kursk was a challenging and demeaning one from the military of Ukraine, and it was explained in a simple term by an analyst to be the list of insults, knowing it's not really favorable anymore to its side. In Donetsk, the only choice that is left is sending those having a common purpose into the territory of Russia to embarrass Kremlin and forcefully make the defense military of Russia reorganized. The reason for NAV's deployment of aircraft to protest ground in Gombe, Air Chief speaks. In the explanation of the Chief of Air Staff's Chief Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, it was necessary that the Air Force of Nigeria sent aircraft to Gombe State for the End Bad Governance protest to be put under control. He said, since the protest had been hijacked from a reasonable set of people, security measures were paramount to the peace of that state. He further stated that the aircraft was meant for gathering important information to prevent things from getting out of hand and to also maintain the atmosphere of serenity. The Director of Public Relations and Information, NAV, AVM Edward Gabwet, while speaking on the unruly destruction of lives and properties in the protest, the best that the Nigerian Air Force could do was to deploy the aircraft. The regiment forces and other security services were as well on ground to help. The governor of Gombe responded by commending the NAV 109 Combat Information Group by putting the art of stealing, looting under control during the protest. Yahaya emphasized that these were trying moments for the nation, but people can still go about their daily businesses by the help of these security officials. He gave the assurance his government will stay committed to providing needed assistance to the 109C RG so they can perform more excellently. Before we end the news, let's go through the headlines again. Palestinians 90 in number killed during Israeli strike. Victims in schools and mosque shelter, as the officials of Gaza stated. More trouble could lie ahead as far-right lingers. Britain hopes its riots have gotten to the peak. Embarrassment for Putin from Ukraine. Surprise assault over southern Russia. The least of it all. The reason for NAV's deployment of aircraft to protest ground in Gombe. Air Chief speaks. That ends the world news on Nimrod Radio Worldwide. Thank you for joining us today. I am Bimpe Esan Adedeji. Enjoy your day to the fullness.